Hello! Welcome to the first video in my series for Collide Week, which is a week in April where I celebrate Collide and the Collide series because I deserve to celebrate every once in a while. So if you know me, you probably know about my book and its many different iterations, but what you might not know is that it has a long and interesting history of how it actually all came to be. So that's what we're going to talk about today in the history of Collide, an origin story, if you will. Fair warning, there are going to be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't finished the book, go do that. I won't spoil you. In order to understand how Collide came to be and its history, you kind of have to understand a bit of my personal history first. So the really important thing to know here is that my sister and I, growing up, loved creating and we loved comedy. When we were little, we were really into it, and for a long time, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. I don't so much anymore because I don't actually think I'm that funny. But my mom thought we were hilarious, so we did basically everything we could to make her laugh and make other people laugh. We started writing plays and skits, and we would have other kids in the neighborhood be a part of them, and we would write these really elaborate plays that we wanted to put on in the neighborhood. At one point, we're choreographing fight scenes, and we just really wanted to create stories together. Eventually, in about 2007, our love for comedy and skits came together with YouTube. She and I started watching content creators like Shane Dawson, and it was mostly Shane Dawson. We were kind of in love with him. And eventually we started making our own skits and comedy sketches and that kind of thing on the channel, which was terrible, by the way. Another thing you should know about me, just as a person, is that I adore film. I love making films, I love watching films, I love talking about films. And I want to apologize to my future spouse who is going to sit through a lot of special feature documentaries with me. A lot of them. So all the while we were creating these little comedy sketches, I was dreaming of these giant, grandiose ideas for short films that we could make. They were totally out of our league and out of our budget, and there was no way we could ever make them. But I did try a couple of times.
Believe me yet? It's just a diamond.
And I kept dreaming really big because I wanted to make something amazing one day. Now in the summer of 2007, I think, kind of a blur, in the middle of when we were making these short films and these sketches, and I remember that we had been renting a lot of DVDs from the library because that's how people did binge watching before Netflix happened. And we were watching a lot of these action TV shows, so naturally I started having dreams inspired by watching that much TV. And I remember distinctly having this dream where there was this big battle going on, and people had basically force powers, which is a reoccurring theme in my dreams for some reason. But people were fighting with lightning and telekinesis, and it was big and dramatic and intense. And I was in the dream, and I remember watching one of my friends, who was a guy, get hurt, and he fell on the ground, and I thought he was gonna die. And I remember holding his face and trying to keep him alive, and he didn't make it. I remember standing up and just being pissed and just feeling this surge of rage come through me. And then I just annihilated everyone, which, as you probably already know, is still the climax of Collide to this very day. When I woke up, I was immediately like, oh my gosh, we have to make a short film about this. So I started creating these characters that were getting superpowers, and I started casting my friends and kids from my neighborhood to be in it. The girl across the street was a girl in my class who had this beautiful blonde hair, and she was tan and had these dark eyes, and I think she went on to do some modeling, and if she didn't go on to do some modeling, she should have. Totally gorgeous. That's where Sarah came from. Then there's two of my guy friends who were really goofy and are still pretty much best friends to this day, and they have really inspired the brothers and how they interact with each other. I was, of course, going to be the main character because I was the main character in the dream, and I'm super vain. But by the time I started developing Heather's appearance and developing it later on, she ended up having dark brown hair and green eyes because that's what my sister looks like. Eventually I came to the heartbreaking realization that we did not have the money or the resources to make this short film, and I still don't have them now, 9 years later. So I decided instead that I was going to turn it into a book. Now this is starting to look more familiar to you, isn't it? I had tried to write stories in the past, like my hit classics, Secrets and The Letter, which have never seen the light of day because I have never finished those stories, and I never will. those stories did translate into things that I used in Collide. The plot twist at the end of the letter is actually the same exact plot twist that happens at the end of Collide. I'm a sucker for that plot twist, what can I say? Starting about then, I wrote about 6 chapters of the book at the beginning, and then had no idea what I was doing, and I threw it in a drawer and forgot about it. It sat in a drawer for a long time, until about the last month or so of 6th grade, when I remember sitting in my reading class and learning about the plot chart mountain thing. What is that called? Future English teacher of America has no idea what this thing is called. Hold on. Plot diagram. That's what it is. Anyway, I remember sitting in the back of the classroom and writing a little plot diagram on my paper, and I was like, oh, so this is when Heather goes to the camp. And the climax is the thing with the big fight. And I started kind of really thinking about it as a whole story. I knew that there was going to be 4 kids, and I knew that there was going to be their teacher, and I knew what plot twist was going to be at the end, and I knew what the climax of the story was, but the rest was kind of questionable, so I threw it in a drawer again. 8th grade rolls around, and in April, one of my friends, Katie, who I still talk to about writing to this very day, started writing this story, I think actually a couple different stories, and she was handing them out to our group of friends and having people read them, and I was like, I write stories too, you know? So even though I hadn't touched it in about a year and a half, I pulled the story out of my drawer and I was like, I'm gonna write this because we're doing this now. Let's go. And that's why Collide Week is in April. That was the inciting event that led me to write the first complete draft of Collide, which is kind of incredible, because without that piece of crap, we would not be where we are today. I finished the book by handwriting it in blue pen, and eventually I realized that I had to name it, because people kept asking me what it was called, and I panicked, because I'm really bad at naming things. So the truth is, the reason the book is called Collide is this. You and I collide. As embarrassing as that is, I cannot imagine the book having any other title now. I keep trying to rename it to come up with something that's better, but I don't think there is anything better. Because it's what it is. It's part of its identity. I can't imagine what else I would call it. After all, the word collide means 2 objects in motion coming together. Heather's life and the life of her superpowered friends, the ordinary world and the extraordinary worlds collide. I'm so lame. So then I typed it all up and handed it out to my friends and my sister for them to read and comment on, and I didn't take the comments very well because I hadn't learned to deal with criticism yet, but I learned. I learned in high school. And then over that summer I started working on the prequel, which was the story of Mitchell Sanders, which has long since been scrapped because no one wants to read that. It's really depressing. In 9th grade, I started what was called Collide 2.0, in which I realized that writing in the first person and changing perspectives every other chapter wasn't working for anyone. So essentially, I wrote the same exact thing, but in third person, and that wasn't capturing my attention at all because I didn't have any plans to revise. I was just rewriting. So instead, I started working on a sequel, which is now the 3rd book, because I slipped another in between. 10th and 11th grade are kind of a blur when it comes to Collide, because I was working on a lot of other things, stories like 2144 and Aurora's Song, which were helping me get through things in my life that I needed to sort out. But throughout that time, I was working on Collide and changing things and updating things and just letting the story evolve as time went on. Unfortunately, because it was all sort of a mess and I was working on so many different things, I don't have very reliable drafts that I can pinpoint what happened to where. What I do know is that sometime during junior year, I finished another full draft because I knew that I couldn't edit the story if I didn't have the story written in some capacity. Senior year, baby. This is where things get interesting. I decided that I was going to go through the entire book and revise, revamp, rewrite the whole thing. Sometime earlier in the year, I had given Heather a new backstory and sort of changed her entire characterization, which was good because originally she was kind of just a bitchy piece of cardboard. In March, I started from the beginning and just charged through the entire book, and on July 26th, I finished the whole thing. And about a week later, I got this back. I am ridiculously proud of this thing. If you want to know more about this and how I made this, I'm going to put a link here and down below and wherever links go on YouTube. And now, a year after I started that last draft, I am sitting here at college about halfway through the second book, and I am more than ready to keep growing and learning and making this story and this series the best it can be. I've only been in college for 2 semesters, but I've already learned so much about writing and life in general, and I am already full of ideas on how to make Collide better. If you want to learn more about that and the future of Collide, you're going to have to wait till my next video though, because I'm going to make a whole separate thing on that. So from my 11-year-old brain until right now, this story has changed a lot. It has taken leaps and bounds and really kind of grown up with me. I've been working on this story for almost 10 years. If you're watching this, I just want to thank you so much for everything you've ever done to help me. Every little bit helps, even if it's just a little bit of encouragement every once in a while. It makes a huge difference in my life. Thank you all so much, and I cannot wait for what's next in store for Collide, Crash, and Shatter. Until next time, happy Collide week, and ride on. I have no idea what my hair is doing today, so we're just gonna roll with it. I cannot wait for what's next in store for Crash, Collide, and Shatter. That's not how it goes.